Hi, I'm the one and only Alexander J. Walker, and welcome to Scars to Stories, the podcast where we turn life's battles into compelling narratives. On this episode, we bring you a story of resilience, grit, and transformation. He's a well-rounded, no-nonsense mental performance coach who's walked through fire and came out with wisdom to share. From policing the streets to studying the human mind, to stepping into the MMA cage. His journey is a masterclass in discipline, empathy, and showing up for others even while carrying his own weight, even physically. He lives with what he teaches, and what he teaches can change lives. He's a fellow ambassador of Odyssey Performance Nutrition, such as myself, and with this little family we've connected. Let's uncover the scars that tell his story. Tune in, listen closely, and be inspired. Now give it up for Michael Paz. Hi, I'm Alexander J. Walker, and welcome back to the Scars to Stories podcast, where we turn your stories into imaginative scars for you to be then told to everybody here on this podcast. Today's guest, we have Michael Paz.
Hey, how y'all doing? Michael Paz, certified mental performance coach, brand ambassador for Odyssey Performance Nutrition, and just a martial artist, person who loves life.
That's beautiful. Beautiful way of talking and lifting up others, since that's quite literally what he does. He goes in, whether it be mentally or physically, and helps bring up those people who do not think they have that chance themselves. So, Michael, let the people know some of your past and background, because you're a veteran officer. Let some people get touched up on some of that stuff.
Yeah, so I'll start from my youth, because I kind of starts from, even though it's not a professional thing, it's who I am starts with my youth. From a child, from 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, I was a chubby kid. So my parents put me in martial arts. I did karate, taekwondo. I did that up until all throughout my childhood. Once I got into my teens, I got into the mixed martial arts aspect. It was like a boxing, wrestling based small and a mid-gen. I fought a little bit when I was 17. I fought MMA. At the same time, during that high school age, I was an explorer, which is a program for people that were interested in a career in law enforcement. So I was an explorer in my local sheriff's office. And then from there, I went to college. And that was probably like my first hurdle undergraduate. So my bachelor's was in psychology. And the hurdle there, I couldn't maintain my martial arts body. So from there, you could say from 19 to 29, I lost that lot. So from there, did my bachelor's degree. Then I went to grad school. My master's degree is in clinical mental health counseling. From there, my focus was on severe mental health disorders, anxiety, depression, suicidality, schizophrenia, homicidal ideation. So and I actually did my internship at Grady Hospital here in Atlanta. So I did that for about a year, a little bit over a year. And then that portion of my life, that's kind of the scars I talk about. That kind of taught me that maybe clinical isn't for me. So from there, I got back I graduated from there, finished my master's program, and I decided COVID happened also. So it was kind of to figure out what I was going to do. So I went into law enforcement. Work at my local sheriff's office where I was an explorer at when I was a kid 15 plus years there. Due to my background, my law enforcement career got really weird. I became the mental health liaison for the agency, kind of work alongside the chief deputy and oversaw mental health for about a year and a half. Then my remaining year and a half, 2 years, I worked in the jail. Um, at about 29 years old, I was like, hey, I got to get back in shape. Due to my scars, I gained a lot of weight in grad school. Kind of my mindset wasn't right. And I kind of had to do something to kickstart it to get back in that mindset. So I'm 33 now. So from 29, I joined my local Almamejo straight blast gym in Buford. And yeah, from there, I started doing Muay Thai full time, many days a week, at least 3 days a week, twice a day, combining with cardio kickboxing to get back in shape until I can get my body to be able to do jiu-jitsu again. I've been doing jiu-jitsu also at least 2-3 days a week for about 2 years now. Working on getting my blue belt finally after a long time away. And actually talking with Brian from Odyssey Performance, he kind of helped relight that fire in me that looking at performance, looking at like my mental health background with my love of performance, nutrition, lifting weights, working out, training. And he's kind of the one that kind of inspired me to become a mental performance coach. So then I got certified under Brian Kane. He's a very popular mental performance coach in this industry. Worked with a lot of UFC fighters, also a lot of baseball teams, a lot of high level athletes. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm starting my company. It's Paz Mental Performance. You see a bison, we're coming at you. The bison charges and I'm ready to charge. So hopefully 2026, we'll start taking clients. And, the goal is that a mental performance coach should teach clients the mental skills needed to overcome those mental barriers. Anytime their discipline fails, that's my job, and my mental performance approach is really influenced by my time as an athlete, as well as my therapeutic background as a psychotherapist. So hoping to kind of snowball towards the positive direction and hopefully start here in Atlanta and then grow from there.
Well, that's powerful and that's amazing because you're taking the necessary steps needed in order to get there. You're doing your connections right, everything. And the way I met Michael here is, he mentioned it earlier, but, shout out to Odyssey Performance Nutrition. We're ambassadors and we absolutely love the little family we have going on. And that's how we got connected. And I really, you can just tell by his story that he needs to be out there. His word and mission needs to be heard. And that's what it is. But you can stand on the testament that you've walked through trauma as an officer, a fighter, and a mentor. So which scars taught you the most? And would you ever give them back?
No, my scars are literally a part of who I am. The martial artists in me views the scars they're the trophies we have from our tests or our battles that we waged, the war we've waged. And I wouldn't get anything. If anything, I want more challenges. That's what I'm trying to fight in September. I'm hoping everything work out because I hopefully I want to get back in the cage and continue to wage war to kind of be, at 33 years old, getting back into it. I'm 90 pounds down. I'm still trying to lose another 90 at least. It's one of those things like I want to be a totem of light, a totem of support to people who are in negative headspaces. And what better way than stepping in the ring partying, right? Like we're way for. But yeah, I mean, no, I would not. Any of my scars that I carry, if anything, I want more scars. Maybe it's going to be really awesome grandpa lore around the grandpa, but the goal is the goal is to take a little bit from my fire and light other people's flames along the way.
That's amazing. Now we did a pre-interview before this, and you were going on about lighting that flame. Can you go over that for us by taking your scars and allowing it to be a story for people back at home watching this, wanting a similar kind of basis in getting a start? What do they need to hear? How do you light their flame?
It's one of those to be like a roaring fire, a roaring campfire gives you warmth. And I hope to be an approachable person that if someone maybe is down will come to me, right? Maybe that's the side of me as a clinician, my previous life as a clinician, you know, but I do want to be empathic, and I want to be, you know, someone who is, like I said, a totem of support. You know, it's one of those things where maybe that's the first responder in me, the public service, but I've also been in a point where I've been down, right? And either the little strokes of fire that have, the sparks that have helped my flame ignite again. You know, my gym, my peers, you know, the hard work that I put in. The goal is that to be able to help others and empower others to do those same things. You know, life is relatively short. So if we stay locked in, shut in, you know, and keeping our goals and our dreams to ourselves, then what is life? Life is going to waste. So that's kind of my goal. Help people find that light.
That's powerful. When you're coaching others through their mental battles while, you know, silently fighting your own, have you ever, you know, do you ever think to carry that weight without breaking? You know, when helping other people, or how does that go, Michael?
Well, the way to carry is my weight, right? Like it's my weight. It's one of those things as a therapist. My original training, my master's is in clinical mental health counseling. And as a therapist, you know, we're taught that we got to cope with our stuff. We got to be effective in how we cope with our stuff, because we cannot let that reflect into how we work with others. You know, my main goal when I'm working with someone is I have to be present and I got to be attentive with them. I got to find those behaviors that break away at their discipline and it's preventing them from performing at 100%. So it is tough. That's actually part of my story. A lot of the scars that I carry taught me to be a better clinician, even though I no longer am working in the mental health, though the clinical mental health portion of it. My new focus is in sports and athletics, because that's kind of what helped me find myself, who I am. So, you know, to answer your question directly, it's, yeah, I mean, I can feel the weight, but I think knowing how I process with the weight helps me empathize with the client that I'm working with.
Okay, wow, that's powerful. It almost puts it in a different point of view, allowing others to see that even if they are struggling with their own scars, that them too can carry on and help others. Okay, so what does discipline look like on the days when your reflecting doesn't match your ambition?
You know, I recently heard on Instagram a reel that said that, you know, when you're working towards your goals, a third of the time it feels great, a third of the time feels mediocre, and a third of the time it's miserable. And, you know, I think when I'm working towards my goals, on those days that I'm miserable, I have to be present. I have to realize why I'm miserable. And I have to look at them, and I gotta kind of do work, because my mindset on it is, my viewpoint on it is that if I'm stagnant, I'm losing. As long as I'm moving forward, you know, you look like the Roman infantry's march, right? As long as I'm moving forward, it can be at a slow pace, but there's crawl, there's walk, and there's running. I can't run 24/7, but as long as I'm crawling towards my goals, that's where I want to be at. I want to relish in the pain and use that pain to progress, keep working towards my goals. So it could be if I'm sore and I don't want to lift weights, or if I don't want to go to jiu-jitsu, if I don't want to do Muay Thai, I'll stretch. I have the mentality that any work toward my positives is positive work. So if even if it's mental, maybe strategy, coaching, you know, maybe learning, watching fights, film study. As long as I'm doing something positive and I'm working towards my goals, I take it as a win. And that's kind of what I do as well, because as a mental performance coach, we have to take all these positives and we got to direct it. We got to find the plan for a client, the athlete that I'm working with, towards taking all these things that he may be doing, that they may be doing towards their progress, organizing it, seeing why we do it and how we can do it better.
That's powerful. That's powerful. People like you and me, when they hear our stories, like the ones you've told, the ones I've told. Now, people know that I too, on this podcast, I myself got a start in MMA. That's where I got my start. And then I wanted the confidence, so I went into the debate team, and then the story goes on from there to where I grew into a motivational speaker. That's what I do now. When they hear my story, when they hear your story, they believe we're special. And what they don't understand is we're all one person. There's one race, truly, the human race. And we have to remember that as humans, a lot of people think that the special ones are special. We're not special. People like you and me do what has to be done. So you've helped people find their strength. What would they be shocked to know still scares or paralyzes you? Because many people back at home, they still are going through their own struggles and think that they can't go through it. So is there anything that still scares or paralyzes you in the active state now?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I think my fears is what makes me human. Even though I work in the social field, like social science, psychological science, I'm kind of, I get anxious around people I don't know. Groups of people kind of give me a little bit of anxiety, and that may be from my law enforcement back. I'm also afraid of not achieving my goals. But, when I look at anxiety that comes from fear, that's just the other side of the coin of excitement. So as I'm afraid, that's also me excited to maybe try and achieve the goals. So I do a little bit of what's called cognitive reframing, right? If I'm afraid of something, I have to kind of reframe that and make it, well, I'm afraid because I'm excited. I'm excited from the challenge, or I'm excited because I get to try this. I may be afraid of failing, but that anxiety that I feel is an excitement for the opportunity to succeed.
See, that's powerful. Those people at home right now need to hear that. Now, this month, I believe, is Men's Mental Health Awareness. There's so many men going on and off, whether they be people like you and me who have businesses or starting a business, athletes, or the normal individual. Those people are sitting at home and going through something that you and me cannot understand, but we've been in those shoes. We've felt what it felt to be hurt. So what do you think a man specifically right now, because of this situation of the men's mental health awareness, what do you think a man could be told right now, or something right now that he could be told to help him through what he's going through?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say to anyone really is that it's okay to express your emotions. Pent up emotions, that may be how you cope, but we have to be aware that it may not be a healthy way to cope. Sometimes we get sad, sometimes we're upset, sometimes that's okay. The main thing that I would say that it's okay. We may not be happy how things are working out. That's okay. It's okay. And, you may not have chosen the best friends to open up to, but they are your friends for a reason. If they truly are your friends, they will support you in this negative time right now. So I would say to anyone, but specifically for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, as a man, I think sometimes we carry this stigma that it's not manly to cry, or that it's not manly to express your emotions. But I will challenge that stigma. I'll be with a sword. I'll stab that stigma, because it's okay. As a warrior, as a tactician, as a martial artist, we have to be aware of our emotions, and even to perform in general. Part of what I preach as a mental performance coach is that we have to be present. So by being present, we have to be aware of those emotions that we have. If they're negative, we have to be aware of them, and if we keep these negative emotions, then we're failing. We have to process these negative emotions and work from there.
That's pretty much exactly the type of stuff I wish I could have heard when I was going through my stuff when I was younger. There was something about that gives a type of reflection that if you can do that, I can do it too, and we can all stay in this circle of being able to have happy times, low times, and knowing that those times will pass. Because this too shall pass. The good times, the bad times will come, but those too shall pass as well. So, if today was the last day you could mentor anyone, what single piece of advice would you leave behind to carry your legacy?
Single piece of advice that I would leave would be that mindset is everything. Mindset, how we do things. You know, if we're a negative person or if we're a pessimistic person, you know, that may reflect on our inner happiness. So smile, small, because it's you, if you approach a challenge with a smile, then that gives you the opportunity to approach that challenge with a positive mentality.
You wear many titles: officer, mentor, fighter. You could say a life coach, even. But when no one's watching, who are you fighting to become?
When no one's watching, who am I fighting to become? Uh, I would say currently I'm fighting to just become the better me who can create the opportunity to be able to fully engage in my passions. Right. An artist needs to be amongst the arts to be able to paint. I need to be able to, I want to create, be it by my business, be it by my job that I'm currently doing, trying to create the life that I can fully engage in my passions and be the passionate me that I want to be. Um, it could be, it could be how I'm looking at like different academic programs. I've been looking at going back to school to maybe get my PhD or PsyD, because just being amongst academia, all these people that are working towards creating a better than their academic titles, that I can take some of that and also work to be the better me. So I'm trying to just create the environment that I can thrive. I think I'm a big Conor McGregor fan. We're from the same like franchise gym, and a big thing that Conor McGregor, he talked about Van Gogh, about how he became mad in his artwork, or he became, people would look at him mad, but he was just flowing because he was just passionate in his artwork. And that's what I want. I want to be able to create the paint for me to paint the art that I want to paint. You know, so if that goal is, being a mental performance coach full time, working with fighters, working with athletes, I want to be amongst that. So that's what I'm trying to create now.
Mm-hmm. And that's that special factor I was talking about earlier. When we do what we do and want to do best, people will label us crazy, because it's easier to say, "Wow, you're crazy," or "You're special." That way, you can fall on your your undisciplined nature, because you see disciplined nature and you think it's foreign, you think it's unnatural, but it's not. It's because those people have not yet found that thing they want to be passionate about, or they too would be quote unquote crazy. So I think it's powerful. Conor McGregor, a beautiful example. Cocky, but he backs up that cockiness.
For a long, Conor McGregor now, is a little,
Yeah, something else. But
something else. I call it Hungry McGregor before you. Hungry McGregor, the mindset. And it's really a reflection of his coaches too. If you look at like John Kavanaugh, awesome coach. He, like, even in sparring, he talks about sometimes, and I hate to get off topic, but it's part of the athletics, right? He talked upgrading the software without damaging the hardware, where it's like being aware of strikes that hurts. Sometimes, you can get techniques without actually cracking each other in sparring, but just flowing, right? And it's like, I compare that to flowing of like an artist. When you let an artist just like, just flow and go, that's that same mindset. So yeah. Talk on McGregor tangent. But.
yeah, it's perfectly fine, man. So when did helping others stop being a chore or a choice and start feeling like a responsibility stitched into your soul?
When did it stop being a chore? In a way, it's still always a chore, right? But I think it's a chore that I choose to do, just like I choose to do the laundry, I choose to wash. It's a part of how I was brought up, my culture. I say it's a chore that I choose to do because I think it gives me more power and power of my choice. Um, it's a chore that I choose to do because, it's one of those things, help others. I'm not a, I grew up in like a Catholic household, and I'm not super, I believe in that, I believe in God. One thing, not to put a religious bit in there does not mean thing, right? Um, but I think as human, for the sake of human, to improve, I think if we have the ability to help someone, help doesn't have to be give them a job, feed them, home them, but if it can just be, someone who asking you a question, be respectful, answer their question, right? And we're not perfect. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to have the negative response. Um, the whole goal of humanity is to be aware of these things and become better. So if I can help someone to come to me asking for help, that's just a little thing I can do as a human for the sake of the betterment of humankind.
What's something you've never told your reflection, but you hope the world hears anyway? So, with all thoughts persevered, what's something that you haven't told your reflection, been honest about, but you hope everybody knows about you? Whether it be something about business, something about when you're in that cage, mentally, anything.
I don't know. I'm pretty open. If someone would ask me something, I think, you know, you know, I'm not perfect, but I try to be perfect. I think that what I want everyone to know is that even though that I try and work in mental health, you know, it's okay. Like my mental health may not always be perfect. I go through my dark times just as I go through my light time. Um, I think, I think my goal is to humanize that, to make that part of who we are. Um, I'm not perfect. I get frustrated about things I think what I would want everyone to know that I don't really share is that, I'm a flawed man, just as I'm a flawed human. One of the big battles I talk about is my weight, I'm self-conscious about it, but I know, and it's through, a big part of it is because I lost my discipline and I've learned the value of this. So who I am now is better than the person I was yesterday.
And that's always the goal. Me and everybody watching, we're all proud that you know what to attack, so you attack it. Whether it be weight, whether it be something somebody has an issue with, like addictions. Anybody who has an addiction or going through a pain, there is a side of you that can persevere. But for you, Michael, if pain were a person, what kind of relationship would you have with it today?
If pain was a person, I would embrace them because I think my pain, my pain's a push, right? My pain's a push. If pain was a person, I would embrace them. I would love to have a conversation with them because, I think sometimes I just view pain as something that hurt. But pain, what I've learned, in my 33 years of life, pain, pain come from different things. Pain can come from someone making a decision because they care about you and you're unable to see that they have to make a decision for the sake of them because of them, right? So I think pain's a reflection of our actions and we have to figure out what they're. So pain was a person. I would love to be closer.
We all hope we can have the discipline to get past that. But discipline keeps you from falling back. But what dream is pulling you forward? I know you touched up on the business and all this, but is there a dream at the end, the end goal?
Uh, a dream for me is to just be in it's what I love. I love like my hobbies are martial arts. I do fires. So, you know, I, I do a lot of things that I love how I can. Like a big hobby of mine, I do firearms on the armory. That's where I kind of do full time for work right now. And I do I used to cheat competitively. If, I've always been the kind that if there's something I like, I go do it. I go try it. So, I just want to be able to drive my race bars more, right? I love it in track. I want to go drifting more. I want to be able to train more. I want to go coach the under guys more. I want to be involved more with my gym. I want to be, I want to fight more. I want to step in the ring first. For me to be able to do that, the foundation for me to do that, work in my or create them to where my work is my passions, right? They say you do what you love. You're not working. You're doing what you love. They, I get that too a little bit, but I'm trying to grind right now to create the bit that will let me be amongst what I love, right? I may not be fighting, but if I'm working with, I'm working with, Alex Pereira, I'm working with, any Ilya Taporia over there. I'm working with these UFC fighters. That would be awesome, right? That's a dream. Um, if I'm working with, pro race car drivers, a lot, I have friends that are Formula Drift drivers, the highest level. If I could have a career where I could be supporting them, working with them, being amongst that, that's fine by me. I don't have to be the driver, but if I can work in a field to where I can be amongst them, supporting them, that's my training, being among what I love. That's the goal. That's the dream.
Okay, so you've trained your body in the cage and your mind through this adversity. What do you still feel unprepared for?
Probably the hardest thing I find is always just to finance. Just I think that's the least amount of preparation I have. Uh, but I think just as we put time together to do our training sessions, I think finances, academics are like what is it? The study of finances. And I think to me, unfortunately, I'm not one that believes in money. Money is the key to happiness, but I mean, yeah, I got to pay these student loans that one way or another. It's got to create this. So it's unfortunate, So I think to me, what I'm not prepared for is how much importance money has, but that's just part of the challenges, right? We have to find how we can create to do what we love.
That's true. What's one lie you believed about strength that nearly broke you?
I think a lie that I believe about strength is that it's gritty and soft. I do believe there's a power in grit. My Muay Thai style is very pressure style. Try to I try to show that gritty side of me, and I love that in my like how I do fighting Muay Thai. But I think it's something in like that old view that someone who's quiet is strong. No, strength is strength comes in different ways. Um, I think what almost broke me about that viewpoint is when I was in grad school, if I was stressed, I'll pray or keep all that to myself. I think that notion that we have to be strong, we have to be quiet, we have to challenge our issues alone. I think that's a lie. And I think to some people it works, but it's not, it's not the end all be it. I think we don't have to tell everybody our problem. And I think that we have to challenge those problems. We have to confront those problems. And I think, if you just keep them in, if you keep it pent in, that could lead to generational trauma, just carries on through, that mindset that parent teaches a son that, they can't express, they can't talk about their issues in the household. Well, the household is a place to overcome these issues, child model parent. So if they see these things, then they're just keeping that weakness, keeping things that, for me, the darkest things hurt the most back there. I think that led to like my depressed feeling, my binge eating, my coping, my negative ways to cope with frustrations that I had in my residency, my internship. darkness is a part of this work, and I think being the first male in my household to be in that situation, I almost felt like my parents in my household, they wouldn't understand what I was going through. And I think now being just a little bit more open to live makes things a lot easier.
Well, it's always good to have someone to talk to, right? Because then we trap it inside. And then there's two types of people. You're either the person who traps it inside and, you end up screaming at someone, or you end up, crying. But crying's okay, so long as we're able to do all of this in a coherent manner. If you can't hold yourself together and you're pressured to do so at a moment, it's going to be very hard to fight. Go in that cage if you're too afraid, or you're walking with tears in your eyes. You have to be able to know when to do that afterwards, or with surrounded people who care about you. That support is beautiful. Or you have the other type of person who holds it in so long that they end up doing something that's irreversible. We're going to touch up on some fun questions for you. What's one fighter, past or present, you'd love to corner for just one round, and why?
Hey, that's tough. Well, there's a big fight Saturday where there's Charles Oliveira. For the sake of the time being, I'm gonna go with Ilya Taporia. I was actually not a fan of Ilya Taporia at first. He just had that cocky presence, but after learning more about him, you kind of see that he's manifesting what he says, and I think he's got the same viewpoint that Conor McGregor had with his Roz, where he's saying it, he's manifesting, he's creating it, he's willing it. And now I'm a big fan. I actually listen to a lot, and he broke a paper, but think better. So I listen to a lot of his videos on YouTube where he actually talks a lot about mindset, elite mindset, creating an elite mindset, how to fortify, how to create it with your team. And he talked about, things he's read through, or things he's read through, implementing. So to answer that question, Elliot Taporia, because I wanted he create, or how he manifests what he preaches and how he uses what he preaches, maybe mid-round. I've seen him on the walkout where he talked about, I'm the champion, God has created this for me. He kind of reflects the 10 pillars of the lean mindset, which is what we teach in mental performance coaching. First, the elite mindset, that motivation, commitment, that focus and awareness, that discipline, viewing I don't know how you use the process of the outcome, but you talked about meditation and the routines, habits of excellence that he creates. You see it all the time in his gym, his discipline of his training, and how he dresses. He manifests. Organization. He seems to be a very organized person. And also culture. He creates that culture. And I follow other fighters from his gym now. BKFP fighter named Franco Tanago, about it, how they just create that culture, that environment, and that lead to success. And that's why I love my I'm at. So my tribe, we call it a tribe, one proud of bot. And so I see how Ilya maybe even with working with a performance coach, or maybe just from light, has created that elite mindset for himself. So I want to see from the corner how he forges that.
First off, that's a great fighter, and second off, that's a great reason. So that's wonderful. Okay, what's your favorite moment of transformation you've ever witnessed in someone you've either coached or helped mentally, or anything physically, any way that you've helped? What's your favorite moment of transformation you've witnessed?
One of my friends who reached out to me, he was thinking about joining my gym. And then when I was struggling with my discipline and I was falling off, so he kind of helped. He was one of those persons that just poured some gasoline on my fire, got me back into the gym training a lot. He talked about wanting to fight, and then one of the things we went through he kind of, I see it in him, right? I see life. I see like him navigating through life. And I was just trying to just give him a push when he needs. He's my friend, my peer, my teammate. I'll hold pads for him, I'll lead classes sometimes when we're just talking. And I kind of reflect a lot of the elite mindset stuff that I preach to him as well. And to me is just being here, like being right here, just being who I am. Him right here has carried a lot of it and has met his goals. He's fought. He had his first fight at IKF in Myrtle Beach a couple months ago, and he's already registered for the September fight that's coming up. So, as a friend, teammate, and peer, I'm so proud to see him reach his goals, and he kind of liked me up to want to reach my goal well. And that's what I talk about. That what I was just talking about, that pride, that culture we create in the gym. You know, even when my fire is dull, I can just show it to the gym because I know someone else there will help just pour some gasoline on my fire, lighten me up.
Man, let me tell you, man, that's what people need. People like you who are willing to take that extra step that other people are not willing to take. Listening to that story brought emotional content to me. I do got friends like that, don't get me wrong, but if I had friends like that in that specific scenario, man, would I go to you all the time. Do you guys hang out a lot?
It's weird, right? Because like my social life really reflects around like my training and in my like. I will say probably one of my negatives is that I hyperfixate, but because I'm like fixated on like trying to reach my goals. Like, yeah, I mean, my day off Sunday, we were training at the park. So we're getting more work in. So I'll hang out with my friends tonight. I got training in a couple hours, so I'll probably head to the gym at in a couple hours. So, my hanging out for me is weird, right? Because I don't need to hang out with a friend to be a friend to them. I'll always because I'm working on what I'm working on. If they text me, if I like their posts on Facebook, if I reach out, if I'm curious on what's going on, I'll just text them. But ask them, I'll call them. I'd say I'm just hyperfixated.
I was asking because the golden rule, Matthew 7:12, treat others as you wish to be treated. People who treat others the way that you treat people, who can genuinely be friends without hanging out a lot, without whatever it is, that genuinely shows you a character. That shows that you're just there because you enjoy it. You enjoy seeing them enjoy it. And that you don't see many of those types of people. So I want to let you know that I'm very proud that you can be someone like that for them in their corner. So I think you're going to love this question. If you could design the ultimate fight camp with any 3 people alive or gone in your corner, who'd be there and what would each bring to your mindset?
That's tough. That's let's see. So I'm gonna go with strength and conditioning coach, strength coach, and jiu-jitsu coach. That's all kind of for. So for my jiu-jitsu coach, Craig Jones. So Craig Jones is someone who's a wizard in jiu-jitsu from B team in Texas. You kind of great, but I think that madness is what takes a lot of that hilarious mindset that he has. Is a little mad, and he kind of take away the just funniness. But look at this. You look at him grappling. He's a wizard. I suck at jiu-jitsu, so if I could be a fraction as good as Craig Jones, boom, let's put him in my corner. And then for a striking coach, I will. That's tough.
Oh, come on.
I'm gonna go with Lyoto Machida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Lyoto, one of my favorite champions. Growing up, he was one of my favorite fighters growing up. You come from a karate background, but I think he reflects that martial artist mind. He recently was on a podcast, the Jackson podcast, too, talking about the 753, which is the 7 pillars of a Bushido type code. So that's something that really resonates with me. That samurai mindset, that warrior mindset. That warrior is the same as the hardest. We just have a different we have a different canvas that we paint on. And then let's see, for like strength and conditioning, that's just the third coach to put in there.
Okay.
I would say conditioning coach would be, I really want a tactician in it too, because we talked about mindset, we talked about that mass, and we do your all-in. I really want a tactician. I'm trying to think, because there's so many coaches that I like follow and share, and to like preach all their stuff. Give me, gosh, this stuff, and I hate to like kind of just be like quiet. That's how it's kind of.
No, it's fine. It's fine because you're thinking. You're thinking about that camp. You're thinking about that fight camp. What's going to get you through that corner? It's your fight camp. Anybody, dead or alive.
This is so hard. This is so hard.
I think I know who I'd pick.
Yeah, let me hear yours. Let me hear yours.
Okay. So my three. Okay. Hicks and Gracie. Okay.
Yeah.
Got to be Hicks and Gracie because he's the best of the Gracie brothers and never lost a fight. He's got the ground game. That's why I picked him. Standing, I'd have to pick. Let me think.
Yeah, this is super hard when you have to like think of it on the spot.
I want to say Boss Rutan, but he's good. He's good, but when that pressure's put on him, unless he's got that heel, I want to think about standing game. So Hicks and Gracie, George St. Pierre, for sure.
Yeah.
And my third person would be mental. So when I go back in that corner and I see all these people talking, who's going to get them through? And that would be Mike Tyson's prime coach. What was his name?
Customato.
Customato. That's my three. That's who I'd pick.
Yeah. That's the difficult part. Like my third choice, because I'm thinking that like I love that tactician is tactically sound. We can kind of guide you through it, right? Because I got Craig Jones for jiu-jitsu, got Lyoto Machida for striking. I'm gonna go Khabib. Yeah, beat
Forgot. Yo. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Khabib. Wow. I love Khabib.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think, just that like smash mindset, but like I really hate his striking actually, but it's that weird Dagestani striking that looks weird but is efficient. And the reason I'm gonna go Khabib, you listen to him when he coaches now when he's in the corner. You listen to it from his fights, from a fight. He's coaching Islam, he's telling him to be patient, he's telling him when to go. He's just present. And yeah, I mean, present tactician. I mean, I would imagine Coach Khabib was run a pretty tight ship.
Okay, so your three people are who?
Lyoto Machida, Craig Jones for grappling, and Khabib for all around.
Okay, okie dokie. Hopefully you got a little fun out of that one.
Yeah, that was fun. That like put me to think.
So, among all the people you've helped, who do you think changed you the most? Would it be that previous situation, or would it be someone in the when you were an officer? Anybody?
When I was a sheriff's office, like I wanted to be the kind, and get in a row. I wanted to do obviously, and then would be detective. So the goal, the immediate mindset was I did successes for myself. Once I became, I don't even remember how I ended up as an advisor for Explorers program, but I will say seeing the students that I had become law enforcement officers themselves create their path for themselves was more rewarding than even any individual achievement. I think for me that my kids, like, I don't want to say their names to like, but I call them my kids, but like some of them they're the road officers in the same county, some of them work at the sheriff's office I used to work at. So there's like 3 or 4 of them I talk to still. No longer law enforcement, but I still talk to them. And it just feels good to know that they're actively pursuing their dreams.
Okay. And that changes you seeing them be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's a favorite lesson you've learned outside the gym that shaped you inside the cage?
Nothing's perfect. An idea, when I was a little kid, I always was an honor roll student. Then I got to high school and I was like, this is boring. focus. And then I think I figured it all out when I was in college. I was like, well, I didn't get an A. I got a B, but this is the trial and tribulation to get me towards completion, right? The goal is to just perform as I can to maintain this performance towards working toward my goals. That's kind of how I view my training days, that night. And probably going to be sluggish. It's hot. So I'm definitely going to be like a girl, but I'm aware that, it's okay. This is just a step towards my goals so I can perform. I think as long as I don't fail, that's the goal.
What's your go-to song when you need to flip that mental switch from struggle to locked in?
Sweet, I'm not a music person. I don't buy albums or anything like that, whatever played is playing. I think there's types of sound. So it's like I like soundtracks for movies. Sometimes Star Wars soundtrack or Terminator soundtrack. The things like that soundtracks really go how I'm feeling. Like lifting weights, I'll listen to like meta, That was just kind of that group that I'm trying to create. Just sounds that reflect. Sometimes I like meditation music, like samurai Zen type music. So things like that.
Okay. I definitely love working out with you because I listen to the same stuff. When you said the samurai Zen music, it's crazy because I actually got a tab pulled up from listening to it in the gym yesterday. So that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. These basic examples are normally like the Rocky Balboa high or my example is remember the name.
Yeah.
50% luck, 100% skill. That song. That's definitely one of them. That kicks me in the drive. All right. So you're gonna be leaving this podcast in a couple moments. What is something you want to leave these people watching with? They're looking to you for changing their future. What is it that they need to hear right now?
To reach out. So mental performance coaching with me, for an example, would be kind of like a therapeutic relationship, right? I'm no longer an active psychotherapist. So like whatever mental disorders we encounter, those disorders are separate, right? But my job as a mental performance coach is to look at your performance. And if there's anxiety in that performance and anything in, you play baseball, right? And when you get to the mound, both there's anxiety from maybe you got the yes. So our goal is to work together through a therapeutic relationship to try and get you out of these yips and to help you perform at the highest level that you can. So the message there's coaches like us out there, whatever environment you're in. I college athlete doing this all the time. A lot of college programs have mental performance coaches for that reason. High school, even if you're an individual just trying to thrive, right? You get businesses use performance coaches to kind of help their employee to meet their goals. So the message that I don't impart is working with a coach is a vital aspect. Working with a therapist is a vital aspect of life. Wherever you organ, if you need help, go get that help. Work me to be specific would be like a therapeutic relationship with a coach. Would be weekly sessions, and dealing the 10 pillars of mental performance, teaching techniques. So if you deal with things that interfere your high level performance, and go out from there.
So if someone in your corner.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to seek someone in your corner, there are techniques for it. I think what we talked in the past, we talked about techniques, kind of like the ABC technique, right?
You can go over that real quick.
Yeah. Let's do that just because it's nice to have a little bit in-depth view into it. So the ABC, we talked about the ABC technique, right? So let's talk about, say you're fighting, right? Say Dustin Poirier and he fought Islam Makhachev. He was starting to feel anxious. he kind of gave his telegraph where he adjusts his short. That's his mind telling his body to do something because he's anxious. So let's redirect this energy to be useful, right? So maybe we're aware that anxiety was affected by grabbing a short. Let's add the ABCs to it. So A would be take a deep breath. B would be for the mind to tell the body to do something. So maybe crack your knuckles, readjust your guard, get back to a high guard. And then C would be to visualize the next technique that you want to do, which C would be maybe I'm going to go jab into the same side hook to follow the cross. Whatever combination visualizes and then act on it. So the message that I want to get across is that there's coaches that have these techniques that were trained there, and just go get someone in your corner so you can meet your goals as well.
Okay, well, Michael Paz, a lot of people are looking at, your business probably right now and looking at your socials. What are those and where can people find you? What can people help you with? Let them know.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Paz Mental Performance. It's Paz, P-A-Z _mental _performance. My email address is pazmentalperformance@gmail.com. All would work. The goal is to start taking clients in 2026. The goal is to see athletes, first responders, and any individual that's trying to just peak performance improvement. It could be more like a mentorship, like coach type relationship. It's specifically it's teaching clients mental skills needed to overcome mental barriers, preventing them from their goal. Build the habits, behaviors, and routines needed to achieve their goals and perform at a high level, regardless of the difficulty. That is verbatim to the performance coaching. So that to me, I see it's disrespectful to not work with someone who is maybe an individual who works at a post and it's somewhere that they're trying to improve.
If you need that help and you're in qualification for that, Michael Paz is your guy. Enthusiastic, mentally tough, and physically rough. You have all three barriers it takes to help someone flourish throughout their career. So this is powerful. Michael Paz is your guy. So if you guys want to help out with the business, reach him, contact him. Now, what about personal contacts? You got any of those you want to share with people?
Yeah. So on Instagram, that's pretty much Instagram. I think my name is, if you look at my last name, so I go by Lucha Paz. It's a masked wrestler, luchador. So my profile photo is a masked wrestler. It's, I think it's on private. So I'll shoot you a message if there's anything there or anything mental performance related. Definitely go through my company's Instagram account. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just want to say thank you, by the way. Thank you to everybody listening to this for giving us an opportunity to mental performance.
Absolutely. People need that. And of course, anytime, man. I highly enjoyed having you on and giving you your episode and a platform to stand on. I want to give a quick shout out to the reason why any of this could happen. Odyssey Performance Nutrition. Once again, you can use my code, capital letters Walker10, or you could use his code
As 10, PAZ10.
All right, and that's 10% off your entire order. Either code doesn't matter to me. I just want you guys to get that help. Odyssey Performance Nutrition, thank you guys, and shout out to Brian. And once again, I was so glad to have this. You were a beautiful guest to have on. I hope my questions intrigued you and made you think. That's the plan.
I hate this bumbling fool because I'm like, well, dang, I'm out there thinking, it's. I think questions. That's the whole purpose of a question. If they make that deep thought in there, they're not that.
It's fine. That's completely fine. I'm sure Marcus Aurelius had to think before writing Meditations, right? Like something like that. You think. That's just how it goes. But one last final question. Is there any last scar that you'd like to turn into a story?
Probably my hardest scar that I wear would be the weight I gained. I was always a big guy. That's why I did martial arts. When I first came out at 17, I fought at 205. So I was always around that in college and grad school, and then definitely when I was in the sheriff's office, the working schedule, gained a lot of weight, gained about 200 pounds from there. I got up to a little bit over 400 pounds. Yeah, that's kind of when I made the decision. I was like, man, like I need to meet the physical goals that I need to do. And I'm a big guy. I'm about 6'2", 6'3", around there. But one of the things that I kind of locked in, and I kind of, before I forced myself to join my gym, Straight Blast Gym, and I was like, look, I got to lose this weight. I got to get this. And so about 90 pounds down, plus or minus. It's hard. Thanks to Odyssey Performance, a lot of their supplements have really helped. Right now I'm starting to take the creatine gummies. They taste awesome. Hoping to kind of build more muscle mass, kind of keep losing more fat. I'm trying to get down to walk around 300 and hopefully be able to cut to 265 MMA. That's the goal. And we're working towards it. That scar makes me, that scar is the one that taught me that there's discipline to this.
That's so true. That is powerful. So taking that with all that's been included with this whole podcast, guys, I hope you can change your circumstance as Michael has here. And I really enjoyed having Michael on. I really enjoyed having you on. And I hope this is an episode that people can watch and learn something from, because that's all this is, to turn scars into stories and have people build that story and build their own from it. So once again, this was Michael Paz, and this is Scars to Stories. Thank you for watching. Any last words?
Thank you.
Okie dokie. All right. We'll see you guys on the next one.